And now it's my honor and wonderful opportunity to introduce to you the first of our student speakers today, Ana María, who, some people just light up a room with their presence. Ana came to see me in my office one day several years ago about a school issue, and I was so impressed. She was so friendly and articulate and honest. And again, it made me so proud of the international reach of this college. We have students from 23 countries, over about 40 international students right now. And it enriches our college immeasurably to have these students among us. Ana has all her career here been a student worker and has worked in many roles and always excelled in every one of them, most recently helping us establish a social media presence by students, and it was an internship for her. And it helped her move forward in music business as her major and management career, and has helped the college raise our presence in the social network community. Ana has all the necessary qualities to move forward in music and management. She's highly intelligent, dependable, creative, serious, and persistent. But above all, someone people like to work with and be around, because make no mistake, music is about people, sharing, being passionate, building a network. And I have no doubt that Ana María will be a success in whatever she chooses, and we will certainly be proud to call her an alumna. So please join with me in welcoming Ana María Gamboa.
Thank you, Harry. It's a great honor to be here speaking in front of you, but it's also a great honor to be sharing this special day with you. 4 years ago, I was standing for the first time at the entrance of McNally Smith College of Music, trying to remember that it wasn't all a dream. After a whole day of flying, it felt so unreal to be here in Minnesota instead of being back home in Bogota, Colombia. Flash forward 4 years, and I can't believe that we're all about to graduate. It's hard to believe how fast time has gone by, and that it's time for us to leave the comfort of school to start our adult lives. McNally Smith will forever hold a special place in my heart. It would have never been the same without all of the students filling each room with their melodies, the teachers challenging us, supporting us, and committing to us the way they did. And everyone else in student affairs, admissions, financial aid, the bursar's office, the front desk. I cannot mention all of the departments, but you get the point. They were all there, always ready to help us with a smile on their face. It was very exciting to be surrounded every day by such talented people. It was very inspiring to see how much talent it was in every major, and how everyone worked together to create such amazing music. Probably what I liked the most was the fact that it felt like a family. Everyone, all in the faculty and staff, including Harry, were always available to help us or even talk to us. There are not enough words to thank them for everything they have done for us. It is hard to say goodbye to everyone, but I know that we are all ready for the next chapter in our lives. As we all stand here today, we're in a chapter full of knowledge, friendships, and challenges together. It is time for each one of us to continue writing our story. I know it is scary to not know what the next step is. Believe me, I'm terrified. But at the same time, I'm very excited for the new adventures coming my way. I know we're all well prepared for what the future holds, and that our futures will be full of success. But more than success, I wish that your lives are full of happiness. I remember one of my first classes here. It was called Music Industry Careers, and our teacher, Craig Rice, gave us some peculiar advice. Surround yourself with pregnant people. Yes, and by pregnant, I mean full of life. I have been very lucky to come from a pregnant family. My parents always taught me to aspire for a life full of success, but most importantly, a life full of happiness and kindness. One of the things that I love most about my family is the fact that we are always laughing no matter the circumstances. And we always manage to find something good in the darkest of times. I hope all of you do the same. And if you don't do it already, I invite you to do so. In this fast-paced world, where sometimes we end up overwhelmed and lost, I invite you to go back to the basics. Stop for a minute and take in every single detail of the world before you. Feel the warmth of the sun. Watch the leaves change colors in the fall and how the trees come to life in the spring. Smile constantly. Happiness is contagious. Do something kind of your way to work. The best form of happiness comes from helping others. Remember that we are not eternal and that this journey is meant to be enjoyed. A week ago, a friend of mine shared a phrase with me, and I would like to leave you with it. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you're doing, you will be successful.
So this morning you will see evidence of why sometimes I think I have the coolest job in the universe. I mean, I get to hang around with people like you, people like these, people like Anna and Dan, who you're about to meet, and then the contemporary vocal ensemble that you're about to hear. It's a place where many, many wonderful people gather to do important and wonderful, magical things. A few years back, the head of our guitar department, Joe Elliott, stopped me in the hall one day and said, you know, there's this new student, young man who just showed up here, and he's kind of an amazing flat picker, you know, which generally means, you know, picking on an acoustic guitar, playing maybe bluegrass and so on, those traditional styles of music. Said his name's Dan Caton, and you gotta get to know this guy. So Dan stopped me in the hall one day just a few weeks later and introduced himself to me. I was very impressed with how serious but yet very polite and mature, and he just seemed like a really interesting young man. So we've spent a little time, and I got to know more about him, and he goes back every summer to his home in Maryland and is one of these beach lifeguard guys that, you know, saves people from the ocean. And it's not just any beach, but it's the one where they have these wild horses that just run free on the beach, and they're there, and you don't get too close to them. He sent me a video once of a guy who was harassing the horses. The horse turned around and kicked him in the shoulder, knocked him over. I guess that's one way to learn a lesson. But so Dan's just this amazing young man with all kinds of strengths and talents. One of my favorite stories, Dan and another McNally Smith student, Kyle Baker, another terrific flat-picking guitar player, they entered the Minnesota State Fair Bluegrass competition for duo instrumentalists. And I came to understand later that Dan was flying back from Maryland on that very day, arrived at the airport about an hour before he was scheduled to be on stage, got in his car, talked on the phone to Kyle and said, what are we going to play? They worked out what they were going to play. They got to the competition and won first place. That's what a McNally Smith education will do for you. Another thing I love about Dan, I have to go, or I shouldn't say I have to, I enjoy going, but there are a lot of concerts. There are a lot of activities at this school, and it seems like everything I go to, I turn around and there's Dan Caton sitting there supporting his fellow students, soaking up the knowledge and the love that's present in all of these concerts. So I guess the last thing I'll say is he's a really good cat sitter, too. If you need cat sitting done, our cat now sits at the front window looking and waiting for Dan to come back. She doesn't care that we're home now. She just wants Dan to come back. And now I want you to meet him. Please welcome Dan Caton.
It's here. We made it. I can't believe it myself. Harry, thanks for such a warm welcome. Thank you to my fellow speaker, Anna. And that I get to share the stage with such an amazing young woman, I'd like to express it is truly my pleasure and privilege to be here addressing you on our class day. And don't worry, I'll do my best to wrap this up because I know we all still have finals on Monday and Tuesday and have work to do this weekend. To begin, I'd like to start with a few acknowledgments. I'd like to start by thanking our distinguished faculty again, who have been here helping us, guiding us through our academic journey that have brought us to today. You've always been here to inspire us and to believe in us. And during some of our most challenging moments as students, there you were. When we were most unsure of ourselves, you had our backs. At the same time, you've been there to keep us in check and remind us just how much we still had to learn when we thought we had it all figured out. Thank you for those moments as well. Thank you to the administrative staff who, like the inner workings of a clock, you keep our institution running behind what is immediately visible to all of us. Harry, thank you for all you do as president, as the face of McNally. Your integrity and professionalism, your inexhaustible commitment to our school, and your engaged participation in the student experience can be an inspiration and example to us all. I'm honored to know you and call you a friend, and you and Alice have been like a second family to me while I've been out here, so far away from home. John, our dean, how do you do it with all these bright students? The dean's list must be growing larger every year. Thank you for all that you do. Student services, you are always looking out for us as well, from student worker paychecks, counseling us when the winters got too long, the vitamin D lamps. Do you guys remember the vitamin D lamps? The ice cream feel-good days, the workshops, to getting our caps and gowns ready. We would not be here without you. So how about a hand for Sue Bresney and the team, everyone? Yeah. Registrar, Kyle De La Hunt, if you're here, dude, you are the man. Yeah? You are so patient and helpful, and you know the student portal so well, you speak Moodle like a second language. So we would not be here without you either. You are our superhero. Todd Smith, guys, always remember to thank your sound guy. Todd Smith has been a huge part of our experience, right? And so I asked him yesterday, he's been here 10 years. I said, how many shows in McNally do you think you do a year? He said about 500. That includes recitals, contempt lit, everything, every part of the experience, including today. Todd's been there helping us. That's 5,000 shows, just average. So I think we need to give Todd a round as well. And finally, the parents, the girlfriends, the boyfriends, the partners, the brothers, the sisters that have supported us along the way. How about a hand for all the families? And finally, thank you to all of you for being a part of my experience and allowing me to be a part of yours. That I am standing here today means you saw something in me that spoke to you enough to ask me to be your speaker, and again, it is my pleasure. So now we get into the meat of my speech. I promise it's not that long, it's just big font. So, it's so much easier to see up here. So today we have 65 students walking with diplomas, associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, about to embark on the next chapter of their life in art. According to one of my favorite bluegrass musicians, Tim O'Brien, the beautiful thing about art is that it gives us the opportunity, under the guise of some enjoyment or perhaps discomfort, to consider the important things in life. And the fact that we all have chosen a life in art is a path of virtue. It's not easy. And I believe that we're here because we can't imagine being aligned with anything else. All of us, different individuals with different interests, backgrounds, each charged with etching out their own unique future in a competitive world. And as dissimilar as we might be, I think we all want the same things: to live our life to the fullest realization of our dreams, to be relevant, to be respected, and to be loved, and live a life of virtue that aligns with these goals to the best of our ability. Along that path, there are bound to be challenges, hardships, but so often, it's these moments of adversity and even pain that beget moments of personal growth and success. We all have a story to share. My hope is that you'll all live the story you've already imagined for yourself and be the vision that you want to see in the world. So now I'd like to tell you a story about how I came to be here in Minnesota. It wasn't for the weather. It's a little more complicated than that. When I was 18, like many of you, that was 2003. That's a long time ago. I wanted to be a musician. More specifically, I wanted to be a guitar player. Having grown up playing music from childhood, I loved the blues, I loved playing country, bluegrass. And after attending a summer camp at Berkeley when I was 14, I was sure I needed to go to music college. That's what I was going to do. And after graduating from high school, my two best friends and I decided, to our parents' dismay, that we were going to take the year off and write our own adventure sort of life for ourselves and enjoy being adults. We made a lot of plans for that year, for our grown-up vacation, as we called it. One of which included an 8-week backpacking trip across Europe. And today, I can't believe we did it in 2003. Without smartphones or digital cameras, and just a few books, a map, and a few wind-up, like, you guys remember the little wind-up, like film cameras? That's what we took, yeah. And the X-ray machines wiped out all the pictures on the way home. It was fine. But, yeah, there are benefits to technology. Yeah. We went to Europe, and we saved up that summer to fund the trip, and with a little help from our parents for the train tickets, we left on a plane for London that September. It was going fine. We were smart, we were frugal, we were organized, we were planned. We went everywhere we could, we did everything we could, we got in as much trouble as we could. And then something happened. Just over a month into our adventure, we arrived in Munich for Oktoberfest. My friend's mother had reserved a hotel for us there as sort of a checkpoint in the trip. And after being there a few months, we had made it. We made it to the checkpoint. We still had a little money to spend. We could enjoy ourselves. We're at Oktoberfest, for goodness sakes. Right? Yeah. So we went to the festival that night with the best intentions. All of us, though, novice drinkers at best. We soon found we were no match for Oktoberfest. And walked home arm in arm, together as friends, back to the hotel in defeat, holding our heads up as high as we could. Now, I don't remember the misstep exactly, but somewhere in the walk we stumbled as a group, and I put my hand down, and the fall. I broke my wrist. One second. And too proud to call home and embarrass myself about it to Mom and Dad. And not willing to disrupt the trip with my buddies. And and too scared to go to a doctor thousands of miles from home, I pulled my pants up and pushed through the final weeks of the trip with an ace bandage and some Advil. When I got home, the brake needed surgery, and a titanium screw and a cast and a brace, and recovery lasted the rest of that year and far into the next. I had no mobility, no strength, I couldn't play, and I had no idea what to do. Music was no longer an option, and I stopped playing for about 5 years. Later that year, with the urge to get moving from friends and mom and dad, get off your butt, son, it's time to go. It's time to start that life, All right. I would begin classes at a small community college near my hometown, where I eventually earned an AA degree and a scholarship to study English at the University of Maryland near Washington, D.C. Following the path of what I thought I was supposed to be doing as a young adult during those years at Maryland, it would yield 2 degrees and eventually a move to the nation's capital with friends to begin what we thought we were supposed to do as young professionals. I don't know exactly what I wanted at that time, just that I wanted to be relevant. But this was adulthood, right? You graduate college, you're supposed to be able to go out and get a good job. A good job, that's what we hear all the time. Weeks turn into months and longer, the perfect job never came. I found a challenge, though, rediscovering the guitar. When I would come home from work during those troubling years, I picked up the guitar. Often, I found fulfillment in overcoming the hardships of the bad wrist. I found a music community I'd forgotten existed, and I reconnected with a piece of myself I thought was to be left in the past. I soon rediscovered all of those enjoyments. And at the time, at the suggestion of a friend, I began to entertain the idea of going back to music school. 5 years later, here I am with you today. I'm speaking with you and for you as one of you, happier than I've ever been in my life, simply because I made the choice to align myself with something that I wanted. If I can offer anything to you as speaker today, it's that if you only visualize what you want, the rest will fall into place. And secondly, it's never too late to start. If I can go from a broken wrist at 18 and through all that nonsense to having the honor of being here addressing you today, anything is possible. So yes, moms and dads, medical school is still an option. Right? Yes, we are about to go out into the big bad world, but look how much we've grown. We are ready for anything. Does everyone remember how they felt at orientation? The struggle just to stay afloat freshman year with 42 classes totaling only 12 credits. Right? How could we get through that year? Does anyone remember Contempt Lit? Look around you. You guys are the last class that knows the real Contempt Lit. Right? Sophomore year was also a challenge. I can finally remember seeing my fellow students without sleep, weeping over ear training exams. Those practice rooms could tell some stories. That year was so long. The juries, we passed them. Junior year was a big one too, electives. We got to find out who we wanted to be as musicians. We'd done all this work to get to the point where we got to make choices about our academic career. It was time for new ensembles. We really got to find out what musicians we wanted to be. We struggled to prove ourselves, and we proved them in our recitals. Senior year, it went by so fast, and here we are today. But it was just as hard as the others for so many more reasons. individual reasons. Here we are with all of this knowledge, all our connections, all of our experience, and having survived all the winters. The fact that we are here today is a testament to our perseverance and our excellence as a class. The experience we've had at McNally is a rare and precious one. Although we may not have what many consider to be the traditional college experience, 4 classes, full-time, 800-seat lecture halls, classes where you're only taught by a TA and you never meet the instructor. We have an academic music community that is one of the richest I could ever hope to know in my life. How many of you could call your instructor on the phone? Or have been to a show with your teacher? Played in a new ensemble every semester. Ensembles like this don't exist anywhere else. Have danced with Harry at percussion night. I'll tell you firsthand, it doesn't happen. And now we get to go out into the big, competitive, professional world to begin our lives with this McNally experience under our belts. But we know competition. We're ready for it. From millions of cells competing for an egg, to trees competing for light in a forest. Competition is part of life. We compete for jobs, for mates, for resources on earth. And even the audition to get into this school was competitive. But I would argue that the moment in life where we get to really experience college gives us the opportunity to be competitive with ourselves. And it's that journey where you're only you're only fighting against the person you were yesterday to be better than that, is the real competition in life. And through that experience, we can really work at giving the best of ourselves to others and being competitive in a competitive world. Now, sometimes competition can get the best of us, as with the last story I'm about to share. I only have 2 pages left. As Harry mentioned, I am a beach lifeguard in Maryland, and it's a small ocean town with wild ponies on the beach. The ponies are trouble for many reasons. They're terrorists. They love food. They kick, they bite. They do. They really do. And half the time, I feel like I'm on pony patrol instead of beach patrol. They're like bears. They'll come into your campsite, take all of your food and run. And believe it or not, lifeguarding has a lot in common with the music business. You have to practice and stay in shape. You have to be ready for anything. Unexpected things wash up on the beach every day, just like unexpected gigs and unexpected last-minute final exams. If it's rough out there, you got to wear a life jacket. And always play it safe and try not to get in over your head. Sunglasses. Sunglasses. Yeah. And also, and finally, beware of the sharks because they're everywhere. Yeah. So the story about competition. One of my first summers, we get all kinds of calls, but one of my first summers, I had one of the most interesting response calls. We really opened the beach on Memorial Day. It's a time we honor the veterans, and the campground's full. It's charged with emotion, and although we don't allow alcohol in the campground, there have been some interesting moments. This one in particular, midday, Memorial Day, a call comes through the radio that there were 2 naked, middle-aged men riding bareback through the campground on the back of 2 wild ponies. Now, while I wasn't experienced enough at the time to respond to this call, I had to stay and stand and watch the beach, but I got to hear everything that was going over the radio. They chased these guys through the campground for miles and miles of beach campground, right? 4-wheeler, DNR police officer, National Resource Police, right? Wilderness Rangers, National Park Rangers, eventually caught them, and they were two Vietnam veterans reliving their glory days and had gotten into a bet on who could ride the pony naked. And in an effort not to be bested, they both succeeded. But that landed them both public indecency citations and a trip to jail. So while, the competition between these two good friends didn't turn out the best, I guarantee you they learned something from it, and they probably won't do it again. So embrace competition and learn from your mistakes. Take growth when you're faced with adversity. Get up and keep walking. And I'll close with a quote from one of my favorite poets, Poet Laureate María. In this poem, a woman at the end of her life is simply looking back, imagining the names of the people she's known during her lifetime. And it goes something like this. And I'll imagine all the names as a beautiful music in the mouth, tending as all music does towards silence. And that idea of tending silence, that we're all just charged with tending silence with our musical voices. So cultivate something, tend your silence. That is my hope for this class. And in that virtuous spirit, if you do find yourselves riding off into the sunset on that wild pony of life, remember to keep your clothes on. Thank you.